In March of 1971, Muhammad Ali sat down to sign the contract for the biggest fight in boxing history. He and Joe Frazier had been offered a choice: $2.5 million each, guaranteed, the largest purse anyone had ever been paid for a prize fight, or $1.5 million each, plus a percentage of what the fight took in. Both men took the guarantee. And then, according to the accounts of that day, Ali stood up, looked across at Frazier and said, "Hey Joe, they got us cheap." He was right. The fight grossed more than $30 million. The percentage they turned down would have paid each of them somewhere north of $6 million. Ali had just left roughly $3.5 million on the table because he wanted the guaranteed number. 35 years later, he made the opposite decision, and it's the reason there is still money in his name today. This is a money story. Let's get into it. Cassius Clay turned professional in 1960 after winning gold at the Rome Olympics, and by 1964 he had beaten Sonny Liston for the heavyweight championship of the world. He changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He finished his career with a record of 56 wins and 5 losses, 37 of those wins by knockout. What he really changed was what a fighter could charge. Ali understood something most athletes of his era did not. The fight is the product, but the interest in the fight is what sets the price. And he could manufacture interest better than anyone alive. The poetry, the predictions, the noise. He borrowed the theatrics from professional wrestling and pointed them at boxing. Give people an extra reason to watch, and more of them pay. It worked on a scale nobody had seen. $2.5 million for Frazier in 1971. $5.45 million for George Foreman in Zaire in 1974. And his largest nominal purse came late. $7.9 million for the Larry Holmes fight in 1980, near the very end. Across roughly 2 decades, his total career earnings from boxing are widely reported at around $60 million. In 1967, that career stopped. He was stripped of his titles and his license to box, and he did not fight again for 3.5 years. The years a heavyweight is usually at his physical and financial peak. He lost that window entirely, and he never got it back. So he earned $60 million. The obvious question is, what happened to it? Let's start with the fact that $60 million was never what he received. In that era, gross purse figures and take-home pay were very different numbers. Promoter fees came off the top. Management took its cut. Training camps, legal costs, the people around him, all of it came out before Ali saw anything. Boxing in the 60s and 70s was not a transparent business, and even the most famous fighter on earth routinely collected far less than what the headlines said. Then, add the entourage. Ali traveled with an enormous group of people, and he paid for most of them. He was famously, almost compulsively generous. With friends, with strangers, with anyone who asked. That is an admirable trait. And it's also an expensive one that runs every single day whether or not you have a fight scheduled. Add taxes on income earned in the highest brackets of that era, and 3.5 years in the middle without a single purse. Notice what's missing from that list. There is no single catastrophe. Nobody forged his signature. No advisor stole from him. There was no one disaster to point at, just a very large amount of money coming in irregularly, and a very large amount going out continuously for 20 years. By the time he stopped fighting in 1981, the earnings had stopped too. And what he still had was the only thing he had never sold. Here is the thing about Muhammad Ali that made the last chapter of his financial life possible. He was not just a boxer people admired. He was one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet. A face and a phrase that meant something in countries where nobody had ever watched a boxing match. That recognition did not retire when he did. It kept going. Through the 90s and into the 2000s, that recognition was already earning. Ali's licensing was run through his own company. By the mid-2000s, the business around his name and image was generating a reported $4 to $7 million a year through endorsement arrangements with companies like Adidas and Electronic Arts. Think about that number against the career. $4 to $7 million a year, every year, without stepping into a ring. His biggest single fight purse ever was $7.9 million. And it cost him 15 rounds against Larry Holmes at 38 years old. The name was outperforming the fighter. And unlike the fighter, the name did not get tired. In April of 2006, a public company called CKX Incorporated announced that it had acquired an 80% interest in the name and likeness of Muhammad Ali. The price was $50 million in cash. The details matter, and they are in the company's own filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission. 80%, not all of it. Ali, through affiliates, retained a 20% interest, and the business was operated through a newly formed company called GOAT LLC. Greatest of all time. Think about what that structure actually does. $50 million arrived at once, in cash, at a point in his life when he was no longer earning purses. That solved the problem the $60 million career had not solved. But he did not sell the whole thing. He kept a fifth of it, which meant that every dollar the name earned from that day forward, he and then his family still had a share of. And the name kept earning. CKX was later reorganized, and in 2013, the Ali rights moved to a brand management company called Authentic Brands Group, which has continued to license his image commercially ever since. Muhammad Ali died in June of 2016. Reported estimates of his net worth at the time vary considerably. Figures between roughly $50 and $80 million appear across different outlets, and no single number should be treated as settled. But the asset he sold 80% of in 2006 is still generating income right now, nearly a decade after his death, and half a century after most of the fights people remember. Now let's go back to 1971 and that table. The young man who said they got us cheap had taken the guaranteed money and given away the percentage. The older man in 2006 took the guaranteed money and kept the percentage. Same instinct for certainty. But this time, he did not hand over the upside to get it. The lesson here is not that Ali was a shrewd businessman. For most of his life, he wasn't. Particularly. The money came in enormous and left steadily, the way it does for most people who earn a fortune in their 20s. The lesson is about what he owned without realizing it was ownable. Every dollar he made in the ring required him to be in the ring. That is the definition of a career. You exchange yourself for money, one performance at a time, and it ends when your body ends. $60 million over 20 years, and it stopped the day he stopped. The recognition he built while doing it was a separate thing entirely. It didn't need him present. It didn't age. And when he finally treated it as an asset, priced it, structured it, sold most of it, and kept a piece, it paid him almost as much in a single afternoon as 2 decades of the hardest work in professional sport. Most people will never have Muhammad Ali's name, but almost everyone builds something adjacent to the actual job that they've never once thought of as property. A reputation, a skill, a following, a body of work, a relationship with an audience. The career is what you get paid for. That other thing is what might still be paying you when the career is over. Ali spent 20 years being paid for what he could do. He spent the last decade of his life being paid for who he was. The second one turned out to be the more valuable asset. If this one hit you, hit subscribe, because next time we're staying with a man who owned something the whole world knew and made a move with it that had literally never been done before. He didn't sell it. He didn't borrow against a bank. He turned his own back catalog into a bond and sold it on Wall Street. And the number he raised was $55 million. You don't want to miss it.